Thank you very much for the introduction. So these are my disclosures. So kind of as an introduction, I think a lot of us know here that non-enhanced high-resolution evaluation of the carotid bifurcation is typically performed with 3D time of flight, magnetic resonance angiography. However, this approach has some drawbacks, potential drawbacks, including sensitivity to motion, as well as suboptimal suppression of background signal. There are also 2D methods for evaluating the carotid bifurcation, but they tend to provide limited spatial resolution along the slice direction. So as you saw from the title, we are investigating a stack of stars QISS approach that's ungated for evaluating the bifurcation. And so what's the rationale for doing this when we have 3D time of flight available? So stack of stars imaging oversamples center of K-space, so there's potential for reduced motion artifact, as well as for improved image quality during ungated imaging, where vessel pulsation can be suppressed with the use of radial sampling. Quiescent interval slice selective or QISS-based imaging could provide improved background signal suppression because there are dedicated SAT pulses that are applied. And also, stack of stars imaging, because it's radial, can naturally support higher undersampling factors easily at the scanner, and this could be used to shorten scan times and improve overall patient comfort during the exam. So the purpose of this work was to report and optimize a prototype 3D stack of stars ungated QISS fast low-angle shot sequence for high-resolution imaging of the bifurcation, with an emphasis on initial protocol feasibility and optimization at 3 Tesla. So these are the general methods. This was an IRB-approved study that was conducted exclusively at 3 Tesla. It's conducted in 3 phases. Initial phase applied this approach in 3 patients with a recent history of stroke, just to gauge basic feasibility and decide whether this makes sense, image quality is adequate to proceed further. Second phase, we involved 4 volunteer subjects where we systematically evaluated some imaging parameters to help identify a set of parameters that we could use and apply in phase 3, where we applied a 5-minute protocol, not only limited to the bifurcation, but providing whole neck coverage. And in this phase, we compared the stack of stars QISS acquisition to time and coverage matched 3D time of flight protocols. So these are the imaging parameters, somewhat of a busy slide, but I think it's just important to note the resolution that was achieved. It's much higher than we can get with 2D QISS, for instance. And we used a multiple overlapping thin slab approach to image the vessel, similar to how 3D time of flight is performed. We did, in phase 2, calculate some parameters to help us kind of optimize our imaging protocols, and these 4 quantitative metrics are shown on the slide. So these are the results kind of in our phase 1, where we initially applied this approach in patients with a with a history of stroke. In patient number 1, we saw a very nice correlation with of the stack of stars inversion recovery prepared QISS with 3D time of flight, with slightly better contrast, which I hope you can appreciate. Another patient here, again, very nice results with the stack of stars QISS, seemingly comparable to 3D time of flight, a little bit more uniform here in the common carotid than in the time of flight in this patient. When we move to the third patient, same type of observation was made. We're not dropping out vessels, very similar image quality overall. And in this patient, we also tried a single shot acquisition, thin slab stack of stars QISS, and which was acquired in 3 minutes. And so we were encouraged by this image quality, so the amount of anatomy we can cover in time. So we essentially focused our phase 3 of our study using this single shot strategy. So when we looked at the imaging parameters systematically, we didn't see any differences in radial view acquisition order. So we tried acquiring all the radial views sequentially, or first traversing each partition encoding step first before moving our radial view, and which is referred to as like an inner slice loop approach, and we selected the inner slice loop approach because we didn't see any difference in previous work in the pelvis where respiratory motion artifact is a challenge has indicated that this acquisition strategy is beneficial. We found that Venetian blind artifact was reduced using tilted optimized non-saturating excitation pulse. Pulse is not a great surprise here. These pulses are used with 3D time of flight. We also found that a short echo time protocol eliminated or suppressed off-resonance artifacts that are sometimes visible in the petrous internal carotid arteries, even though they slightly reduce some of our quantitative metrics by roughly 8 to 30%. With respect to no magnetization preparation, so instead of applying any sort of background suppression pulse with the stack of stars acquisition, we found that the saturation recovery and inversion recovery preparations increased some of our contrast metrics. And we chose an inversion recovery prep in phase 3 of our study. There was a slight trend for shorter sequence repetition times to modestly increase contrast in CNR, but it was a very small effect, so we chose an intermediate sequence repetition time of 1.5 seconds in phase 3. So this is, I'm going to walk you through kind of the 4 subjects that we imaged in the 3rd phase of our study. This was a phase where we try to get whole neck coverage in 5 minutes. So on the left here are 2 3D stack of stars KISS flash acquisitions, just differ in terms of the echo time and bandwidth. And on the right are 2 implementations of 3D time of flight trying to match the scan time and anatomical coverage. This is more of a conventional protocol, just instead of acquiring the data at the bifurcation, we simply just acquired more slabs and accelerated the scan to match the scan time of the stack of stars scan. So I hope you can see a few things here. First of all, there's improved display of the vessel origins here. For example, the vertebral origins, carotid origins as well, with the stack of stars acquisition. There's no wraparound artifact with the stack of stars acquisition here, which was somewhat seen here with the nose wrapping in with a 3D time of flight scan, which uses kind of it uses a rectangular field of view. Also, we found that the use of a short echo time eliminated any artifact at the petrous internal carotid artery here due to magnetic susceptibility and local off-resonance in that location, where we saw it with the longer echo time on the stack of stars acquisition as well as in the time of flight scans. So moving on to another subject, pretty much the same story here, improved display of the vessel origins with the stack of stars inversion recovery KISS flash acquisition. Again, just and generally better image quality when we compare the stack of stars KISS flash to the 3D time of flight scans trying to match scan time and anatomical coverage. Another example here, again, better display of the vessel origins than with the time of flight scans. And finally, another case, same observations can be made here, improved display of the vessel origins with the 3D stack of stars inversion recovery KISS flash acquisitions. And when we compared, so one thing we were thinking of, well, maybe there might be subtle differences between the time of flight scans and the stack of stars scans. So why don't we just take our stack of stars protocol, we'll run it the standard way using a stack of stars readout, but also convert it to a 3D Cartesian readout. And we found that stack of stars sampling did substantially improve image quality. This is the stack of stars exam. This is kind of the standard Cartesian acquisition in 2 subjects, and found this to be a consistent finding in these 2 cases. So in conclusion, we found that ungated 3D KISS SMRA using a stack of stars flash readout is a promising technique for high spatial resolution evaluation of the carotid bifurcation as well as the entire neck, provides uniform background signal suppression, good arterial background contrast as well. There's potential for rapid imaging in 5 minutes of the entire neck. And compared to 2D KISS approaches that have been previously published in the neck, this provides roughly 2 to 3-fold smaller voxel sizes, so that's definitely a benefit here. And this is initial work, and we are planning to further evaluate this approach going forward. So great. Thank you very much for your attention.